My ex came out as a lesbian just before our wedding day. Then he lied to everyone, and now they've all thrown me out. I had been with Emily for 7 years, and right from the start, she was very open about being bisexual. She often talked about her past relationships with women before we got serious, and honestly, it never fazed me. I appreciated having that level of honesty between us from the beginning. Our relationship was not about explosive passion or constant excitement. It was more like a steady, comforting flame. Sure, we had our arguments, like her habit of leaving dirty dishes in the sink or my tendency to stay late at work without letting her know. But we always found our way back to each other. We would talk things out over late-night cups of coffee or early morning strolls through the park near our apartment. Living together created its own rhythm, and we settled into comfortable routines. Every Saturday morning, we would visit the local farmer's market. Emily would head straight for the fresh flowers, while I always grabbed an extra loaf of sourdough from the bakery. In the evenings, you would often find us in our cozy kitchen, with Emily experimenting with new vegan recipes she found online while I taste tested, or curled up together on the couch binge-watching our favorite shows or listening to new music we discovered. Our relationship might not have been the stuff of fairy tales, but it was authentic. It was the little moments, the unspoken understanding, the shared laughter over inside jokes that only we understood. It was in these moments that I envisioned a future with her, a lifetime of these small, perfect moments. After 7 years, it felt like the right time to take the next step, to propose to her and officially start our life together. This was not a hasty decision. It was built on countless little moments that showed me we were perfect for each other. After 7 years, everything seemed to fall into place. We were strong emotionally and financially, living together in our cozy 2-bedroom apartment filled with plants Emily loved to take care of, and photos capturing our best memories. Everything we did seemed to sync naturally, whether it was saving up for a dream vacation or planning our weekly meals. We were a team, and I never doubted that we were on the same path. So proposing felt like the most natural next step. I wanted everything to be perfect, reflecting the depth of our relationship. I spent weeks planning choosing the right ring, a simple yet elegant band that matched her understated style, picking the perfect day, and setting up an intimate and personal scenario. I decided on the little art gallery where we had our first date, pretending there was a new exhibit I knew she would want to see. The gallery was small and intimate, with soft lighting and the quiet buzz of other visitors, giving it a lively yet private atmosphere. As we walked through talking about the various pieces, my heart raced with a mix of nerves and excitement. At the center of the gallery, under her favorite painting, a vibrant, abstract piece that always sparked her passion for art, I stopped. The moment felt frozen as I reached into my pocket and touched the cool metal of the ring box. I knelt down on one knee, and her hands flew to her mouth in surprise. "Will you marry me?" The words felt both monumental and fragile in the air between us. Her eyes, always so full of warmth and understanding, widened as she hesitated. That moment of hesitation felt like an eternity, stretching painfully long. I could see the conflict in her eyes, and my heart sank with uncertainty. But then, softly, almost in a whisper, she said yes. The excitement of our engagement should have filled the next few days with joy and planning. In many ways, it did. Our friends were thrilled, their faces lighting up as they suggested wedding ideas, beachside ceremonies, rustic barn venues, even a destination wedding in Italy. Their enthusiasm was infectious, and it kept me going for a while. But something was nagging at me, a feeling of unease that I could not shake. It started with Emily's hesitation. That brief moment planted a seed of doubt in my mind. Why did she hesitate? I could not help but ask her later that night as we lay in bed, the light from the street lamps casting soft shadows across our room. "I was nervous," she said, her voice calm but her body tense beside me. I wanted to believe her, to dismiss it as pre-proposal jitters, but it felt like there was something more she was not telling me. I pushed a little, but she ended the conversation with a kiss and whispered, "Let us just enjoy this moment." I decided to let the moment pass, not wanting to spoil the brief peace we had. But then came the visit to her parents. The next day, we went to share our big news with them. I expected joy, or at least a warm embrace and congratulations. Instead, I was met with awkward smiles and hesitant well wishes. Her father's pat on my back was a bit too firm, and her mother's eyes quickly darted away when she met my gaze. They were pretending to be happy, but their eyes betrayed their true feelings. This was not the reaction I had anticipated from people who should have been overjoyed for their daughter. Their strange behavior only added to my growing unease. Why would they fake their happiness? What was holding them back? The questions swirled in my mind, multiplying by the minute. I tried talking to Emily about it, pointing out how off her parents seemed. They're just surprised, that's all. They'll come around, she said, brushing it off too quickly, too easily. In stark contrast, our friends were genuinely thrilled, already diving into planning and celebrations. Their excitement was a relief, but also made her parents' falseness even more troubling. It felt like I was living in two worlds, one where our engagement was the best news ever, and another shadowed by hidden truths and half-hearted congratulations. This mix of reactions left me feeling off balance, caught between the joy of our friends and the unsettling response from her parents. It should have been one of the happiest times of our lives, but instead, I found myself searching for clues, looking for any sign of what was really going on beneath the surface. Then came that day, which seemed no different from any other. I walked through our front door after a long day at work. Instead of finding Emily in the kitchen or curled up on the sofa with a book, she was standing by the door, her posture tense, a suitcase at her feet. My heart sank at the sight. "What's going on, Emily?" I asked, my voice steady despite the dread curling inside me. Emily looked at me, her eyes lacking the usual warmth, replaced by a somber resolve. "Listen, I know this is going to be hard for you," she started, her voice trembling slightly, "but I'm not bisexual. I'm a lesbian." Her words hung in the air between us, heavy and cold. "My parents have known this for 2 years, which is why they weren't happy and were pretending. Please, I beg you, do not make this difficult. Just let me leave. Do not cry, do not beg, and do not scream. Let us handle this like adults," she continued, her voice growing firmer with each word. I stood there, frozen, as she picked up her bag and walked past me, not once looking back. The front door closed with a click that echoed through the empty apartment. The silence was suffocating. I did not move or call out to her. I could not. The shock pinned me in place, my mind racing yet blank, unable to process the sudden void Emily left in her wake. For what felt like an eternity, I stood there grappling with a torrent of emotions. Betrayal, confusion, heartache. Each one hit me harder than the last. How could the person I loved do this? How could Emily, the woman I was ready to marry, hide something so crucial from me? How could she walk out so suddenly, so coldly, as if our years together meant nothing? Emily, the woman I thought I knew, the woman I had planned a future with, had vanished, leaving behind a stranger in her place. The realization hit hard, a sharp pain that was both numbing and burning. As time passed, the initial shock turned into a deep sense of loss. The future we had envisioned, our dreams and plans, dissolved before my eyes. 3 months dragged by since Emily left. During that time, not a single text, call, or knock on the door came. It was as if I had disappeared from the lives of those I considered close. Emily blocked me the day she left, and her parents, who once welcomed me warmly, did not reach out. Our friends, both mutual and otherwise, remained silent. Their social media posts were full of praise for Emily, celebrating her bravery and authenticity. Each post felt like a knife, reminding me of my own isolation. My health took a nosedive. The stress and emotional turmoil took a physical toll. I could not eat or sleep, and I ended up in the hospital 3 times during those 3 months. Each visit was a haze of IV drips, sympathetic nurses and doctors advising rest, as if a bit of sleep could mend a shattered heart. The concern from the hospital staff only highlighted the indifference from those I used to call friends and family. The empty notifications on my phone were a stark, painful contrast. Work became my only constant, the only thing keeping me somewhat grounded. I forced myself to go every morning, finding solace in the distraction, but leaving only to return to an empty home where the silence was overwhelming. Meanwhile, Emily's journey was public, her narrative one of self-discovery and authenticity. I could not escape it. Every time I went online, there it was, the story of how she had finally found herself. The world praised her, admired her courage, while I became invisible in my own life, unseen and forgotten. It was not just the breakup that hurt, it was the complete abandonment, the erasure of my existence from the lives of those I cared about. Right now, the anger is too heavy to bear, too dense to spark. I am floored by disbelief how quickly my world turned upside down and how everyone I thought I could rely on simply vanished. I wander through my apartment now, each corner a painful reminder of what was and what will never be again. It is not just the breakup, it is the total silence from everyone else. Not a single call or message asking if I am okay. It is as if I do not exist, as if my pain is less important. It is all about her courage, her journey, her authenticity. You know what? Forget them all. They showed their true colors. They are all celebrating her while I am here, broken and ignored like I meant nothing. and forget Emily for leaving me stranded in the wake of her self-discovery without a second thought. I have tried to understand it, tried to find some closure, but there is none, just a raw, gnawing emptiness where trust and love used to be. I trusted her with my heart, my future, and our friends. I thought they were our friends, but it turns out I was just an extra, easily discarded when the narrative no longer needed me. So, yeah, I am beyond angry. I am just lost, stripped of my role in my own life, wondering if I ever really mattered. It is a hard pill to swallow, realizing you might have always been the expendable one. But maybe this is the wake-up call I needed, a brutal push out of naivety. From here on out, it is about finding my footing again, figuring out who I am when I am not part of a we. As for them, they can keep their shallow concerns and superficial celebrations. I am done. Late one night, I was trying to distract myself with an old movie and the rest of the takeaway when my phone rang. There was a name on the screen that I hadn't seen in months. Paul. I felt sick looking at him. What could he want after all that had happened? I answered reluctantly. "Paul, hello," she said as her voice trembled. "I've seen your article, the one you were talking about, Emily. We didn't know. DJKJI was nervous and supported myself no matter what happened next. I felt like I had stepped back into the storm that I thought had passed." "What do you know?" I didn't know if I wanted to hear the answer, but I could have asked. Paul drew a heavy breath at the other end. "Emily told us a different story," he admitted. "She said that when he came to you, he went crazy, tried to hurt her and threatened her if she left. He made us promise to get in touch. You said it was dangerous." DJK, my breath caught in my throat. The accusation was like a punch in the gut. How can he say these things about me? My surprise and hurt should have been obvious because Paul quickly added, "But man, we confronted him after reading your article. He broke down and admitted that he had lied about everything. He said he was afraid of losing us as friends if we knew the truth." DJK, the room suddenly felt cold, and the shadows deepened. I was depressed on the couch, and months of isolation and betrayal suddenly fell on me. "Did you all believe him? Just like that?" My voice was barely whispering, and disbelief and sadness were mixed into my words. "Yes, and I can't tell you how sorry I am. We should have asked your side. We should have reached out to you. We have ruined the big time." DJK. The silence that followed was heavy, filled with the weight of lost time and broken trust. The news that Emily had lied about such serious accusations was both believable and heartbreaking. Why would he do this? And why did everyone believe in him without ever thinking about me again? Paul's next words pulled me back from those spiraling thoughts. "If you'll excuse me, a lot of us want the right thing." When I hung up, the screen went dark and the silence in the apartment felt a little less oppressive. Following Paul's call, it was like breaking a dam that had blocked months of silence. The days that followed the revelation were a whirlwind of emotions and decisions. My phone, once a reminder of isolation, was buzzing non-stop with messages of regret and apologies from friends who had abandoned me based on Emily's lies. Among these messages was a message from Emily asking for forgiveness from her, and that her deceptions were caused by the fear of losing her friend. Apologies to my friends, and Emily's confession were unfolding in the glow of my phone screen in a dim corner of a once shared apartment. Then came an unexpected message from Emily's current girlfriend, Mary, who was blindsided by the whole situation. His apology was mixed with confusion and hurt. He had known Emily for 1 year, but he only heard of me as a roommate. This detail was sharply stabbed. It was confusing to realize how thoroughly Emily had rewritten our shared past to fit into her new story. The weight of the deception put a heavy strain on me, and fueled by the need to have some control over the currently injured mixture and confusion, I decided to face the whole situation head-on. I have created a new group chat with Emily, Mary, Paul, and other misunderstood friends. The digital room was feeling tense, charged with a virtual standoff for confrontations to take place. I made everything clear in the group. I haven't changed my mind about forgiving what happened. Not yet, I began, my words cutting through the silence that had previously engulfed us. I've even considered legal action against Emily for defamation. This statement was partly true. The idea of suing her had crossed my mind, driven by the deep hurt and the drastic measures I felt pushed towards. If any of you truly cared about me, wouldn't at least one of you have reached out to confirm her story? To ask for my side? My words weren't just a question. They were a mirror reflecting their own actions, or the lack thereof. Then, I revealed more about Emily, things I'd kept private, details that painted a fuller picture of her deceit. Each message I sent felt like a small release, a venting of months of pent-up frustration and sadness. After making sure my piece was heard, I blocked them all. It was a drastic step, but necessary for me to start healing, to cut out the voices that had so easily believed the worst of me. The last few weeks felt like being caught in an endless storm. No matter how many numbers I blocked, new texts and calls kept flooding in. Friends VDJ or people I thought were friends VJ reached out through different numbers, swinging between apologies and accusations, even involving people I didn't know to pass their messages. It was relentless and exhausting. Every buzz of my phone spiked my anxiety, turning what was once a simple ringtone into a trigger. It felt surreal, like a twisted nightmare that no one should have to endure. But every new message, every unknown caller ID flashing on my screen, pulled me back to the harsh reality that this was indeed my life now. There was no waking up from it. Today, I saw a therapist. Sitting in a quiet, softly lit room that felt a million miles away from the turmoil of my life, I intended to focus on dealing with Emily's betrayal and the fallout with my friends. But once I started talking, old wounds opened up, wounds I hadn't even admitted were there. The deaths of my parents and my sister DJ events I had boxed up and stored deep within VJJ surfaced with overwhelming force. I cried not just a few tears, but deep, heaving sobs that shook my whole body. I cried for everything that had happened, for everything I had lost. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel alone with my pain. The therapist listened, her presence calm and accepting, a stark contrast to the judgment and betrayal I had become accustomed to. Leaving her office, I felt drained but strangely lighter. It was clear to me now that this was just the beginning of a long journey, a journey to heal, not just from the recent betrayals, but also from the grief I had carried for years, buried under layers of daily survival and distraction. I almost forgot to mention that I never had a good relationship with Emily's parents. We never got along well because they always said I wasn't the right guy for their daughter. So I never really cared about them. But this time, they asked me to think wisely and not to sue Emily because she was afraid. He justified his actions, that's all. Actually, I'm not surprised by their reaction to the news that I married him. It's been 1 month since my first post and I'm here again. I know I promised to come back when things got better, and I desperately wanted to. Unfortunately, my life has never improved. I'm going to talk to you like I talk to my therapist, in a way you're all like my therapist, LOL. Every session with the therapist will peel away the layers that I didn't even know I was there. I started the treatment with the naive hope that some sessions would fix me. I want to quickly navigate the emotional wreckage left by Emily, but it turned out to be much more complicated and difficult than I imagined. I sit in the same soft chair every week, and the room is always quiet except for the thin ticking of the clock and the distant sound of the city filtering through the window. These sessions are my safe space, but they challenge me deeply. As I talk through my days and recount the events that unfolded, I realize how much I've bottled up VDJ, not just recently, but over the years and decades. I've been crying a lot now. It's not just a tear. It's a kind of deep, trembling cry that comes from a deep place inside me. I cried for my parents who lost too soon, and if I let the silence stay for long enough, I can still hear that laugh for my sister. What happened to Emily? How deeply her deception cut? And for my friends who turned away when I needed them most, and weren't the people they'd known for years, treated me like an afterthought. The therapist listens, her notes are quiet, her nods are encouraging, but the job is mine. Every session, every revelation feels like I'm trying to get out of a deep well. The walls are damp and mossy, and my hands slip every time I think I've found a new grip. It's frustrating, and sometimes I leave feeling worse than when I came in. But a ray of hope. This is a process, and sometimes you realize that it must be difficult. You're exposing a lot of buried emotions, she tells me, her voice always steady. Recovery is not linear. These words have become a mantra for me during the most difficult days. I know I'm not an expert on this. I can't properly examine my emotions or predict how long it will take to feel whole again. A journey with no clear map, full of unexpected twists and setbacks. But I'm learning about grief, betrayal, and the strength it takes to rebuild trust VDJ, not just to others, but to myself as well. The journey ahead is not the quick fix I once wanted. Nevertheless, I cling to moments of clarity and small triumphs. Emily's actions without breaking down and without talking about my sister, or falling into deep anger, losing my parents and my sister plunged me into deep grief because I felt it unbearable. When Emily entered my life, it was like a breath of fresh air cleaning a long, sealed room. She became my focus, my future a chance to build a new kind of family and create a life full of happiness and stability that I suddenly lost. I poured everything into our relationship. Cooking every dinner and planning every date night and every little surprise was the new thing I imagined for us. I wanted Emily to feel not only loved, but deeply valued. I listened to her dreams, supported her ambitions, and was there whenever she needed to rely on someone. She wasn't just my partner, she was my best friend. One person who really knew all aspects of my vulnerability, my deepest fears, and in my heart. Emily filled the space where loss was hollowed out. She was my soft spot, and her happiness became synonymous with myself. Over the years, this bond deepened and was rooted in countless shared moments and private jokes that inextricably intertwined our lives. What may not have been clear in everything I've shared before is the depth of my commitment to her. All the plans for the future, all the dreams about what lay ahead, included Emily by my side. She was not a part of my life. She was central to every part of my vision for the future. She was not a part of my life. That's why her betrayal was cut so deeply. It felt more like a personal loss. It was like losing my own part. When Emily left, it wasn't just the partner walking out the door, VDJ. The promise of a new life, a new beginning that once seemed so bright and sure, as if she had taken away the essence of the family I tried to rebuild, collapsed into uncertainty and disillusionment. Now, in the aftermath of her departure, I'm grappling with not only the pain of her betrayal, but also the harsh reality of being alone again. In the face of echoes of past losses, it was the person I trusted with my deepest self, VDJ. The person I believed would never hurt me, VDJ, who left the deepest cut. Healing from this isn't just about moving past a broken relationship. It's about rebuilding trust, not just with others, but with yourself. It's about navigating through layers of sadness and betrayal and understanding that the journey to healing is neither linear nor easy, but I need to regain my senses and find hope for the future. Returning from the military felt like stepping into another world. After years of structured day-to-day, when the stakes were life and death, the transition to civilian life was chaotic, quiet, and mediocre. Along with my duffel bag, I carried memories and traumas that simply could not disappear with time or be left on the doorstep. It was during this tumultuous readjustment phase that I met Emily. She entered my life when the echoes of my military service still rang loudly in my mind, a time when I was trying to rediscover someone who was out of uniform. She looked past the facade I presented to the world, a veteran decorated with medals and a straight posture. Emily saw a quiet moment of vulnerability, the fear of the night, the reflection that consumed me. Instead of turning away, she approached, choosing to understand and share the burden of my hidden battle. It wasn't just love at first sight in a romantic sense. It was a profound, life-changing connection. Emily represented hope, a beacon in the fog of my transition. Her presence brought a sense of normality and peace that had eluded me since my return. I was fascinated not only by her beauty, but also by her compassion and unwavering support. Perhaps it was naive, but I believed in the fairy tale she represented. Emily was for me the one who made the concept of home feel real again, not just a place, but a state of being. In her, I saw the possibility of rebuilding a lost family and creating a future full of laughter and love, a stark contrast to the loneliness and solemnity of my past. This belief in our future has fueled every decision, every sacrifice. I have poured all my hopes into our relationship, believing that this is the path to a new beginning and a path to a life where the shadow of war and loss is replaced by shared happiness and mutual growth. Looking back on the past year, I have come to realize that life is not always unfolding as planned. Sometimes, the most painful experiences carry the most profound lessons. Living through the whirlwind of a journey of betrayal, abandonment, and subsequent self-discovery taught me more than ever moments of happiness.